All right, let's dive into a bit of a historical mystery. How did one single city, in just a handful of decades, produce a concentration of genius that would literally define the next 2,500 years? We're talking about the blueprint for our art, our politics, our science, even the way we think. So today, let's try to unpack the Golden Age of Athens.
And really, this is the big question, isn't it? Because we have to remember, Athens wasn't just another ancient city. After being burned to the ground by the Persians, it didn't just rebuild, it totally reinvented itself. And in doing that, it somehow laid the foundation for, well, almost everything we know. It's a wild story. So let's break down exactly how it all went down.
And here's the thing that's so crazy about this period. It's the sheer breadth of it all. We're not talking about a city that was, just good at philosophy or just happened to be skilled in architecture. No. Imagine one place producing Shakespeare, Einstein, Michelangelo, and the framers of the Constitution, all at the same time. That is the scale we're talking about. It was a total cultural supernova.
So, how on earth did this happen? Well, the story really kicks into gear with one man, Pericles. Under his leadership, Athens hits its golden age. The city was safe, its democratic government was humming along, and money from its empire was just pouring in. This created the perfect storm for cultural boom, making Athens a magnet for the brightest minds from all over the Greek world.
And it all comes to a head in this year, 447 BC. Pericles gets the citizens of Athens to approve a massive public works project. It was this hugely ambitious plan, born from the memory of their city being destroyed, and it was designed to shout Athenian glory to the world. And let's be honest, it probably guaranteed their tourism revenue for the next 2,500 years, the rebuilding of the Acropolis.
And you can still see the most visible legacy of this era today, just towering over the city. The Acropolis wasn't just a fortress on a hill anymore. Pericles and his team transformed it into the ultimate symbol of Athenian power, ambition, and just pure artistic genius. It was physical proof of their golden age, built for the whole world to see and admire.
Now, the crown jewel of the Acropolis is, of course, the Parthenon. And this thing wasn't just a temple and a bank, it was a mathematical marvel. Its dimensions follow what we call the golden ratio, which creates this sense of perfect visual harmony. But get this, the columns, they aren't actually straight. Each one was subtly curved and tilted to correct for optical illusions, making the whole building appear perfectly straight to our eyes. I mean, that's just mind-blowing precision.
But the story of the Parthenon's incredible art is, well, it's pretty dramatic. Fast forward to 1687, the Ottoman Turks who were occupying Athens were using the temple to store gunpowder. A Venetian cannonball hits it, and boom, the whole thing explodes. Then, over a century later, a British ambassador named Lord Elgin collects a ton of the surviving sculptures from the rubble and ships them to London. And that kicks off a huge debate about where they belong that is still going on to this very day.
And if you want to understand why this is still such a big deal, you just have to look at the art itself. This sculpture group is known as the Three Fates. The artist, Phidias, somehow made solid marble look like soft, flowing fabric clinging to the body. The realism is absolutely breathtaking. You can almost feel the texture just by looking at it. This wasn't just carving stone, it was breathing life into it.
Okay, but the glory of Athens wasn't just in its hardware. As magnificent as the buildings were, you could argue the city's real legacy is in its software, the incredible ideas that would fundamentally reshape how human beings think.
And right here, we meet a direct line of teacher and student that forms the absolute bedrock of Western philosophy: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates basically changed the whole game. He turned philosophy away from these big, abstract questions about the universe and pointed it right back at us, asking, how should we live? His student, Plato, took that idea and applied it to society as a whole. And then his student, Aristotle, tried to use logic and reason to understand, well, the entire world.
And believe me, these ideas were radical. After watching Athenian democracy sentence his own teacher, Socrates, to death, Plato became, well, he was deeply disillusioned. He basically decided that the masses were just an emotional mob, totally unfit to rule. His solution, which he lays out in the Republic, was the philosopher king, this idea that his state should only be governed by the truly wise. It was a direct attack on the very democratic system that defined his city.
So, how do you get an entire city to think about these huge philosophical questions? I mean, Plato might have been writing for the intellectual elites, but Athens had a brilliant way to bring complex ideas about life, fate, and morality to everybody.
the public theater. Greek theater basically came in two main flavors. You had tragedy, which was like their version of prestige TV drama. It used old myths to explore the deepest questions about being human. And then you had comedy, which was, for all intents and purposes, the world's first political satire show. It was sharp, it was current, and it used humor to mercilessly make fun of powerful politicians.
And you can draw a straight line from these plays to today. The plots were so psychologically powerful that 2,000 years later, Sigmund Freud would name his famous theories, the Oedipus complex and Electra complex, right after them. And in comedy, nobody was off limits. The playwright Aristophanes mocked everyone from the city's leader, Pericles, to the great philosopher Socrates, proving that holding power to account has always been a pretty vital job.
So, we've seen the blueprint for our buildings, our ethics, and our entertainment. But the Athenian design, it goes even further. It shaped the very way we record our own history and understand our own bodies. Take the historian Thucydides. While he was writing about the war between Athens and Sparta, he spotted this timeless pattern in politics, the incredible danger that happens when a rising power challenges a ruling one. And today, leaders and political scientists still call this the Thucydides trap. They use it right now to talk about modern conflicts, like the relationship between the US and China.
Thucydides didn't just write down what happened. He created a whole new standard for writing history, one based on evidence, on logic, and on rigorous analysis. His style became the model for Western historical and political writing for millennia, shaping everyone from Roman historians to Winston Churchill.
And in science, we meet the father of medicine himself, Hippocrates. Now, at a time when most people blame sickness on angry gods, he proposed something revolutionary. His theory of four humors was, completely wrong, but his approach was a total game changer. He argued that health and disease have natural, observable causes, not supernatural ones. That was a huge leap.
But his most important legacy, the one that truly lasts, is an ethical one. He created a code of conduct for doctors, laying out the principles of patient care and confidentiality. This oath, which says the doctor's #1 job is to help the sick and do no harm, is still sworn by medical students all over the world today.
So when you put it all together, the art, the politics, the science, you finally see the real answer to that question we started with. The ultimate legacy of Athens wasn't just a pile of amazing buildings or a shelf full of books. It was a new way of thinking, a commitment to reason, logic, and questioning absolutely everything. That spirit of rational inquiry became the engine that powered the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and our entire modern scientific age.
Which really leaves us with one final thought. After 2,500 years, from the columns on our government buildings to the ethical codes in our hospitals, from the logic we use in our debates to the very questions we ask about how to live a good life, how much of our world is still operating on a blueprint created by this one remarkable city all that time ago?